I'm Eshan, and I'm somebody who do the boring thing, which is making history cool again, and that is what I'll be doing today. Let's start with a quick survey, should we? How many of you here hated history in school? Raise your hand. Those who are not raising their hand, they believe that I'll trust them. I won't, because I am a detective, a history student. So before going into the subject, and I have a whole cue set prepared for my talk, because as a good academician you have to keep something ready on your hand to take refuge in. Before going into the subject, let me brief you why I'm standing here. Do you see this picture of a bunch of students? And that F is not in the PPT. So this is the team that revolutionized history 3 years ago. And this team is doing the work every day and night with passion. History in our education system is taught in a classroom, where you are supposed to mug up dates, facts of history, who came first, who went after them, who killed their brother, sister, etc., etc. If I ask you to think of history, 3 things would come to your mind, and tell me if I am wrong. Dates, battles, and kings. And of course the dreams that you saw while sleeping in a history lecture. So this was a problem that we thought, and for me remembering dates is the toughest thing. I can't remember when Battle of Panipat was fought, though I know it just for the sake of the talk. I don't like to remember dates. And that's what happened when I decided that I would study political science in Delhi University. But thanks to the age-old Delhi University's cut-off system, it made me land in history. And I thought, there goes my career, there goes the avenue of becoming something, because I thought there's nothing in history than just dates. Let's then ask us all a very simple question. What is history? Is history all about dates? Is history all about facts and battles? You know, history is an unending dialogue between the past and the present. We live around history. History is all around us. We are made up of history. And about the relevancy, I asked this question on my first lecture in Dayal Singh College, Delhi University, not too far from here. I asked the teacher that, "Ma'am, how is history relevant?" She gave me a wonderful example that really summarizes the relevancy of history. She said, imagine you have a stomach ache. Sabko hota hai pet dard. You go to a doctor. The first question the doctor would ask you is, what was the last meal you had? And based on that, he or she prescribes you some medicine that you often take, don't take, whatever you do, but that's the procedure. That shows the relevancy of history. Whatever we are today is because of an event that happened in the past. So, a subject, a discipline of study, which is so intrinsic to our identity, which shapes our identity, and often imagined identity which we contest in contemporary times, how could such a subject be boring? So let's start again. During the journey of Caravan, during my first semester in Dayal Singh College, I thought there was something missing in just boring lectures, and ma'am is sitting here, I'm talking about missing classrooms. But I thought there's something missing in a history lecture. It was all just boring, you know, Babar came here just for the mangoes, etc., etc. I thought, why don't we go out and explore? I was a vagabond and avara, as you say, but in a good sense. So I found these couple of people with me who were also avaras, vagabonds in Dayal Singh College, and we thought we'll go out, chill at Humayun's tomb. Somebody of us would read up about Humayun's tomb's architecture, etc., etc., and we'll lead a wonderful walk to these monuments. And you also have really good monuments around your campus. The Northern Ridge is one such example where you could go. Your institution is a monument in itself. So we planned a trip. The next slide maybe. This was the trip that I planned called Walk and Learn, and we decided that we'll go to this memorial at Delhi Heart INA. How many of you know about Kalam Memorial in Delhi? 2, 3 people. Okay, so this was our first walk that we decided that we'll do. Can you guess how many people turned up for this talk, for this walk? Any number? 50? Okay, 0. Nil. Nobody turned up for the walk. I was alone at Kalam Memorial and decided we won't continue this, etc. But my father, to whom I dedicate this talk, he said, don't worry, in a couple of more months and weeks, you'll get a good audience. In the meanwhile, I met somebody called Sohail Hashmi, who is one of the leading heritage activists in Delhi, and shared the idea that, sir, we are students, we do not associate ourselves with any institution. We want to just have some casual heritage walks in and around Delhi, because at that time, the walks were not so accessible. Those cost 600 rupees, 700 rupees for a student, which is really very difficult for a student to afford. And that's the reason why a lot of old people go to these walks and not the youngsters, who are soon will become history. They go to these heritage monuments and not us, the future of India, as they say. So he decided to lead a walk. As you can see, 16, 17 people came up from my college, and 2 from, I think, Lady Shri Ram College. This was the first successful walk, after which we never looked back. But then, as they say, no journey is easy. The biggest hurdle in our journey came with COVID-19. In March 2020, I remember we had 3 sold out walks planned to Red Fort and other monuments in Delhi, which we had to cancel on account of an advisory that was released by the government, that three people were infected with something called coronavirus in Kerala. They decided that they'll stop the heritage walks or close down all the monuments in India. That was the moment when I thought that I think we'll have to end what we started as a rebellion with a cause. But instead of feeling helpless, my team and I decided that we'll transform what started as a heritage walk initiative into something online. We harness the power of the online mediums, which was very new at that time. We didn't know what Zoom was, what Google Meet was, and there's the college bell that rang. So we decided we'll start something called Karwan Learning at Home live series with 6 historians. And we asked them, ki, sir, aram se, tasalli se, just engage the young people. Just interact with them on Instagram. All teachers hate Instagram because they think that's where they are, losing their students and they are getting into whatnot. But we decided we'll make Instagram our best friend, because that's where 90% or 96% of our young population is. So if we want to get them to history, if we want to make history cool, we'll have to start with a cool platform. That's when we made our Instagram page, moderate following, etc. But we experimented with the reels. How many of you see Instagram reels? So we decided, almost all of you, we decided that we'll ask the historians very simple questions. What is history? What do you think of dharma? How do you date Mahabharata? You can see the dating of Mahabharata in one of these. What was the role of Gandhi in partition, etc. These myths that floats around the internet. Because these are the platforms where myths and narratives that divide society also emerges. So we needed to counter that. We wanted, because if you remember history correctly, history unites us more than it divides. And that is the narrative we wanted to push among students, which is also academic in nature. Uh, going, going away from the conventional history, because if we think of history again, and I am forcing you to think of history again and again, but if you think of history, there are only two kinds of history that exist for a normal student. One is political history, another is economic history. We think, wahi hota hai itihas, thus that happened. But what about the history of food we eat, films that we watch, or history of tawaifs, history of marginalized communities? We often forget that in our conventional form of boring history. So we decided that we'll do something unique. We'll have historians speak on history of food, from where did the potato come in the biryani. I think that's also one of the, was one of the reels in the previous slide. And we were joined by almost 350 academicians from all over the world, trying to make history cool for you. And from there, we started getting texts like, why did you not start this when I was in class 11th? Why were you not there when I was doing my engineering, etc.? I would have taken history. That was the change that we started seeing during COVID. After COVID, and let me change the cue card, we did not just find our audience in students of history, which we earlier had, but we got students in academicians also. The next slide maybe. We got students in academicians, we got students in 80-year-old people in Delhi, around Delhi, who started enjoying our sessions and sending us texts on WhatsApp saying, yaar, kamal kar diya, wo food history wala session to kamal tha. And the second one, we started a concept. We tried experimenting with our boring heritage walks. We said, it's too hot out there, 50 almost in Delhi. Let's go inside the AC rooms of museums and take ourselves through the history of artifacts, of museums. And we started these museum walks in Delhi. We did Indus River, Indus Civilization walk, we did the Gupta Age walk, etc., which people really liked. Even school students really enjoyed it. The other thing that we experimented was the Karwan Baithaks, where you can see Professor Romila Thapar sitting in the audience listening to the speakers speak, having conversations. So the crux of the matter was, the crux of these innovations was to bridge the gap that exists between academics and the public at large, because we fear of the word academia. We think those sit in the ivory towers, so to say, and they never interact with the public. We wanted to erase that divide, because when we erase those divides, authentic narratives of the past come to the floor. People could debate it, because, as I said, we are all made up of histories and the processes that went in the past. We have all the right to debate. We have all the right to engage with the past, which was earlier missing in our society. We decided to adopt an ancient formula of Kotuhalashalas. Students of history might know. These were places, avenues of public discussions where Buddhists, Jain and Hindus would do the Shastrarth, as they say, in ancient times. So we decided we'll make something like that with the Karwan Baithak stuff. Next is, when we talk of histories, we often limit ourselves to his stories. How many of you heard the concept of his stories? But in even that conception, we forget to mention stories. Achha, let me share a story. Shah Jahan chopped off the hands of the laborers who built the Taj. How many of you know about that? Heard that story? But what if I tell you that's not history, it's a myth? Shah Jahan did not chop the hands of the laborers. Rather, he had a whole Tajganj built for the laborers to settle, because those laborers in turn made Red Fort in Delhi. Labor was very cheap, was very expensive and scarce, so you could not lose your laborers who were so deeply engaged in the past. Another story, should we? Should I tell you another story? Chalo. How many of you know what happened in 1857? Raise your hands. 1857, a year so close to our existence. The first war of independence, the mutiny. But what happened in 1858? Raise your hands. Now this example will show how we only know one narrative of the past, which is written in textbook, and forget about the rest. You know, we only know the boring stuff and then blame the historians that we make history boring. In 1858, we have the first registered use of something called gin and tonic. How many of you enjoy gin and tonic? The Indian tonic water was invented to fight malaria in the British Army, British Indian Army. Something which was used as a medicine was used in 1858 as a drink to enjoy, which I might enjoy after this talk. Interesting drink, you must try. So, coming back to my point of using these stories, using these social media as a tool to strengthen academic history. This fine example of a meme, thanks to Mad Mughal Memes for providing them. How many have seen these memes? Yeah. Memes is a thing that I don't know about. I consider myself a 90-year-old. But the Gen Z are very well aware of the meme culture. We can use these instruments for ourselves. It should be a selfish initiative, not for the society at large. Do hell with society. We need to change history for ourselves because, as I said, it's our stories. It is us who can bring about a change. Finally, the last slide, because I think I'm running out of time. These are the ways you can make history cool again, and I'm using the word again repeatedly because history in its original form is very cool. We have made it boring. The education system has made it boring. The first is attend heritage and museum walks, not biased by anybody. There are so many options now. Attend as many heritage walks as you can because those include stories, myths, recent events related to those monuments. The other is go to museum and art gallery dates if you find one. Getting a date is also a very big task. So if you manage to find a date, take them to a museum or an art gallery rather than something at the Majnu Ka Tila. That might be more interesting for you. The third is arrange baithaks, as I said. Don't wait for a baithak to be arranged by us or somebody else in the history community. You can do it on your own. Invite your professors in different universities to interact with the students, which transcends these disciplinary boundaries of history, psychology, etc. and try to engage in a conversation. The fourth is harness the power of social media platforms like Instagram Reels or interactive and engaging posts on different stories that I told you about the Shah Jahan and 1858 gin and tonic. These are the ways you can make history cool again for yourself. And I have not taken the take of making history cool for all. I have made it cool for myself. But I believe through this talk, all of you can make history cool again. Bring back the stories, and the last is be a meme lord. How many of you consider yourself a meme lord? Collectors of wonderful memes and stuff like that. Become one. It's very easy. Use these modern day relevant themes to use about history. Finally, let me tell you one thing. History, as I said, is the medicine to our broken, overheated times. We have to use it very wisely because these dividing narratives that exist in societies like ours can be really dangerous for ourselves, our future. So let's make academic history cool again. Who is ready to join the revolution? Thank you so much and keep reading history.